It's really rare that a movie after 20 years ages this well. True. And again, the bar's in hell. I was like, oh, no transphobia? No homophobia? I was like, okay, wait a second. Y'all are really doing it.
Hey everybody, welcome to Rom-Com Vom, a Sex Ed with DB podcast miniseries exploring popular rom-coms from the 90s and early aughts that gave us toxic messages about love and sex. Hello, Sex Ed with DB listeners. Welcome to a brand new mini-series that we're doing. I am so excited. You guys know that I am obsessed with all things pop culture, TV, and film, so I really wanted to create this series as an ode to that love. And I really love rom-coms. I have my entire life, and so I'm thrilled to be able to, use my sex ed lens to really understand what's going on here in these rom-coms and what did we internalize as kids and what are we taking into adulthood with us? Probably a lot of problems is the reality of that. This week, we are joined by the amazing Franchesca Ramsey, comedian, writer, and cultural commentator to discuss the movie Hitch. Hello, Franchesca.
Oh,
welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you're here. I said this before we started recording, but I'm a huge fan of your work. I loved MTV's Decoded. I think you're so funny. You're so engaging. Love you on Twitter. Love what you're doing. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Of course. Yes. And since this is a brand new mini-series, I just wanted us to talk about our relationship to rom-coms and like how it came to be for each of us. So why don't you go ahead and go first?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely grew up very much an idealist, so I enjoyed rom-coms, but I also was a late bloomer. I've talked about this in my work many a times that I predominantly went to white schools, so I didn't date. It really wasn't until I got into college that I was like, wait, am I hot? Because I never had a boyfriend. I never had any attention. And so for me, rom-coms were like, wow, like what if that was my life? Like, oh my God, like look at how you get swept off your feet, because I didn't have any personal experience to actually relate to when it comes to romance. So I was definitely like all in, full blown believer.
Wow. Yeah. So I think like I totally get you. I feel like there's this element, and I'm so glad that you said sweep you off your feet, because there's a literal quote from Hitch that I have for our cringe corner later about this. But yeah, I similarly just feel like, I was like, I'm not these skinny hot women. That's not me. I'm like a curvy girl with acne and glasses. Like, where do I fit in
But when
here?
you take the glasses off, do you become
I'm beautiful.
Suddenly hot?
Like, she's all that. Yes, exactly that. Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize how hot she was this entire time. She's also skinny. That's so crazy that she's just ugly with glasses.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just felt very much like they were sweet and I really liked them. And I thought that was my idea of like how to be kissed for the first time and like never been kissed, or just like, this idea of like the romance. And I never was really like in love with When Harry Met Sally, but I feel like, The Holiday is like one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. And there's just so much like sweetness in them and a lot of good writing. I don't know if you've seen the movie It's Complicated.
Yeah, I have. Well, and to your point about the sweetness, I think the sweetness is what, in hindsight, makes it difficult to recognize some of the more problematic elements. Like when you watch an action movie, for example, you're like, there's a lot of violence and there's drugs and criminality and corruption and all of those things. And when you're watching a superhero movie, you're like, this isn't realistic. Like this is fake, right? But rom-coms are often so grounded in reality and have that quote unquote happy ending that it's harder to actually have a moment of like, this is actually not realistic.
Right.
Even when they're like whimsical and fun, it still feels like, oh, that could happen someday for me.
Totally. Yeah. I think even like watching Mean Girls and like Aaron Samuels like asking what date it is and just kind of being like just completely struck by how cute he is with his swept hair. And there's just these little elements that a lot of us when we were in like middle school and high school could just totally relate to. These like big crush feelings and just wanting to be loved by people is really
absolutely
like what it is. And yeah, I'm wondering if we can hop into Hitch now, because that's the movie that we're going to be talking about today. And we'll start off with our first segment called As a Kid. So I just want to know, like, when did you first watch this movie? What did you find it like charming or problematic? What do you remember about it? What resonated with you?
Yeah, so I do remember watching this movie, but I honestly can't remember how I felt about it. I will say I really like Will Smith.
Same.
And when I watched this, I was so just like, God, he's so charming. Like, even though he is like smarmy,
so
you're just like, he's so cute. The hairline is full. Like, like he's just,
he's so very hot.
He's so suave. Like, so, while I don't remember having those thoughts, I always had a crush on him. So I definitely, I probably had those same feelings when I watched it. But yeah, watching it with fresh eyes, I found myself laughing a lot, but like laughing at like how ridiculous, like there were moments where I was just like, are you kidding me? Like,
this isn't real.
This is bad.
Yeah. Very cheesy, very much like, oh my God, the opening scene. I'm just like, oh, so we're full on tricking people into meeting.
Oh, yeah. And also just like the classic trope of like dopey guy with supermodel hot woman.
Classic. Like, it's never the other end also. It's never the other way.
Like, not one dude just liked some woman in his office. Like, it had to be some like fantastically beautiful, like professional, pretty person.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like I saw this movie, I think it came out in like 06 or something like that. So, or 05. So it's almost 20 years old. And I was probably in like either 5th or 6th grade when I first saw this movie. And I just remember, same as you, like having a crush on Will Smith and being like, oh, like, wow, he's built. Like he is quite hot in this movie.
Yeah.
And just this idea that like, oh, like nice guys clearly aren't getting a good shot or something. Like this yikes mentality of like, oh, like, wow, like I do want Kevin James to succeed. Like I do want, like he deserves Allegra. You're just like, oh, does he? I don't know.
Yeah. It's like that. I've heard it called like the adorkable misogyny, where it's like because they are dorky, they feel less threatening. And even though, like, to your point about like, oh, you feel bad for Kevin James, like there's still a level of extreme entitlement.
Oh
like
God.
I'm in love with this person that I don't know. I know nothing about them.
No conversations.
They have no conversations. Also, I work for you. Like, so there's like it's clearly not professional to cross that boundary. And yet, like, I'm going to put all of this work into it because I know that if you get one-on-one with me, you will fall in love with me. And like the feelings will be reciprocated. And it's like, yeah, just because you're nerdy doesn't mean you're entitled to that.
No, like for sure not. And this, I don't know, we'll get into it. But basically, listener, if you haven't seen Hitch before, or if you don't remember because you also saw it 20 years ago, here's a recap. We're going to do the setup right now. So in case you haven't seen it in a while, Hitch stars Will Smith as Alex Hitch Hitchens, a date doctor who helps clueless men win over women. Hitch's methods seem harmless at first, but as the movie unfolds, his advice about love and attraction walks a fine line between charming and manipulative. And why are we talking about this? Like, Hitch was a rom-com blockbuster. Like, it made really good money. It did really well. It's seen as kind of one of the most famous rom-coms of the early 2000s. And while it's a lot of fun, it really also promotes some outdated, problematic ideas about a lot of things: gender roles, manipulation, consent. And so we want to break down today how Hitch teaches us what not to do in love and relationships. That's why we're here. Yeah. So let's get into the segment we call That's Problematic. So we're going to break down the most problematic elements of the film. And the first thing I want to offer is this huge bucket of the manipulation of women, right? With like the sub question of like, is Hitch's date doctor routine romantic, or does it encourage really unhealthy manipulation practices?
Oh, it's so unhealthy. I mean,
Yeah.
like in the opening sequence,
Oh,
he lures away this woman's dog
with a
to
fake
hand it off
dog. It's
with
not
a
even his
fake
dog.
to then have the guy grab the dog and lay in the street as if he saved the dog from being hit by a car, which
Fully
like
gaslight.
fully, but it's also like the layers of you stole this woman's dog and then she's like, you saved my dog, we're about to fuck. Like is that what it
enough?
takes? It's like, it's like, you know what, you saved my dog, so now we got to do it. Like,
Yeah.
what? That's not how it works. Like, I have a dog, I love him very dearly, but if somebody rescued him, I'd be like, thanks, and then
Bye. Have a great day.
I have other things to do.
I'm busy.
Yeah, the manipulation of it all. And again, I think it's that adorkable misogyny, as it's really framed as romantic. It's
Right.
framed as like you're going the extra mile. And it's like, well, the premise is dishonesty. You are, especially if you want to foster a relationship with someone, an authentic relationship needs to be built on truth and trust, not on lies and deception. Like, why would I want to be in a relationship with someone like that?
And even when Hitch is like going through these basic principles, right? Like one of them he highlights on the blackboard. He says, listen to what they're saying. Women like it when you seem interested in them, or something like that. Where
he's so close. It's so close.
Just like, it's right there, but it's like you're really missing a big piece there, which is that like women just want to be treated like people. They just want to actually feel like people like them and are interested in what they say because they are interesting. So it's just like this funny thing where it's so dependent on how do we get her kind of like into bed is like basically what this is showing us.
And I will say, like, part of me, like, truly the bar is in hell, because when he kept setting up the premises that he's setting you these dates up to potentially have the first kiss with a woman. And I was like, wow, I mean, he's not saying sleep with them, but I was like, that's still pretty bad. It's inherent. It's implied. But I will also add one thing that stuck out to me in that opening sequence also, when he's listing those principles, is the consent of it all. He has this whole spiel about how if a woman says no, she doesn't really mean it. And then if she says she's focused on her career right now, she doesn't mean that. Like, every woman wants to be swept off of her feet. And it's
oh my God.
Yeah, but you're ignoring the fact that, yes, sometimes people say those things in order to, kind of get around hurting men's feelings because we don't want to die. We're like, let me say, I'm really busy. I'm really career focused right now. Or actually, I have a boyfriend. Or actually, whatever it might be. And not to say that sometimes those aren't the real answer or they are lies, but like, it doesn't matter what the reality is. Like, a no doesn't mean convince me. No is a complete sentence. And it's like, to start the movie that way is so bold.
It's real. It's offensive. I just like, I remember like seeing that opening sequence as a kid and just feeling like, oh, cool. Like, this guy's smart. He like knows what women like that fucking terrible Mel Gibson movie, What Women Want. You're just like we were afraid that if we did that one in this series that our audience would have not seen that because it's A, trash, and B, very old.
It's really bad.
It's so bad. But I think the premise here is that like men know what women want. They don't actually know what they want. How could they know what they want? And I think this is so interesting in the sequence where Eva Mendes, her character, I can't remember her name. What's her name? Sarah Milas. She is in a bar and Hitch is about to go up to her with a martini. And there's this asshole named Chip who's like so persistent. And she's actually like mirroring the shit that he is doing to her, right? And she's like, seriously, Chip, like, this is not a code for try harder. Like, we're kind of seeing her like break the fourth wall a little bit by like saying how dumb like Hitch's shit is. But the problem is she still like is charmed by him when
immediately. He does the exact same thing, but he's cuter and like suaver. And so she's like, yeah, now I'm into it.
I know. And then he does the same thing. He leaves her a drink too when he leaves. He's still leaving her wanting more. He's making her seem like, she doesn't matter that much to him because he's leaving. And, it's just the same shit repackaged.
Yeah.
And it's a problem. I'm not into
Yeah.
it.
And he also like stalks her. Like
He
if there,
stalks her.
there's all of these moments where he sends a present to her office with the little walkie-talkies, which
Walkie-talkie.
again, it was cute and clever. And you're like, oh my God, like he's being flirty and forward and he's trying something different. But it's also like, sir, you sent this package to my job, and everyone at work is like, ew.
Oh my God, the classic.
Everyone's so into it.
They're
but like
so into
anywhere
it.
else, like you would lose your job. Like,
Right.
Sarah, you were on the clock.
Sarah, please, gossip won't
It
write
is an
itself.
election year. What are you doing?
Sarah, you have to write about Allegra Cole being cheated on at the beach. Like, please, like, get to it.
Prioritize.
And then she, like, why does she go out to dinner with her boss? Like, the whole thing is just very strange. That whole thing is weird to me.
Yeah, I will say though, like I love the slapstick of it all, and I need more rom-coms. Bring back slapstick because
This is our plea.
Truly, it's so funny seeing Will Smith in the prosthetics when he
Oh my God,
has his
the
allergic
allergy.
reaction.
Yes.
When he kicks Sarah in the face. I mean,
Oh my God.
I laughed.
Yeah.
But again, I was like, I needed those moments to balance out just the ridiculousness of like, oh God, you are a stalker. And it's not cute.
Speaking of stalker, I mean, we got to talk about Albert Brenneman and Allegra Cole here because, you know, this whole thing, he's like obsessing over her, right? And I think this kind of furthers the idea that like we don't need to know women's personalities in order to be in love with them.
He knows literally
zero,
nothing about her.
Just that she has an art friend named Maggie and that he's going to really pay attention to Maggie just so he can get to Allegra. It's just the whole thing is just like, okay, we get it. Like, you think she's hot. You lent her your pen once. Like, none of this really actually lends itself to you having a legitimate relationship.
And also, she's so one-dimensional that, like, just him saying, like, yeah, you should spend your money the way that you want makes her be like, oh my God, I really like him. But also the fact that she is this quote-unquote successful, powerful woman, and there's this boardroom of men telling her what to do. And if no one had stood up for her, if no one had said, like, it's your money, she was just going to go, okay, I just can't spend my own money.
Miss.
And that's what he's attracted to. He's like, I'm attracted to a rich woman who doesn't stand up for herself. What?
I think he just thinks she's really hot, and that's what their relationship is unfortunately based on.
1000%. That's it.
Hey everyone, Amy from the Shameless Sex podcast here with a special invitation for couples of all orientations and genders. Are you wanting to amp up your intimate connection with your partner? Maybe you want to add more spark and sexy aliveness into your relationship. Or perhaps the two of you just need to get away from it all and just be in paradise with yours truly in beautiful Costa Rica. Then you need to come to our Shameless Sex Couples Retreat. This luxury retreat is 5 days and nights of workshops, relaxation, adventure, fun, and play, plus beachfront and surrounded by toucans, monkeys, sloths, and all the creatures of the magical Costa Rican jungle. And it's all inclusive, so you don't need to worry about a thing once you get there. So if you want to pamper your lovership, then please join us November 12th through 17th, 2024. Spaces are limited to 6 couples, so snag your spot ASAP. To learn more or to sign up now, go to shamelesssex.com. You won't regret it. See you on the beach.
Moving on to this new bucket of gender roles, right? Like when we're thinking about like the outdated ideas here around masculinity, you know, Kevin James needing to like be a man, be the one that goes 90% for the kiss while she goes the 10, like, you know, and then femininity. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. I'm curious to hear your thoughts because Sarah Milas is kind of an interesting multi-dimensional character. Her friend obviously is just this like humph. I never saw anyone run away so fast. Like she just is like the Southern like belle who is attracted to this one asshole in the film. So I don't know. Tell me your thoughts on all this.
Yeah, I think with Sarah, like they're trying to do the like girl boss feminism of it all, but at the same time, they're still like, she's a strong, independent woman, but deep down, she wants to be in love. Like,
Yeah.
She comes to work and everyone's like, why are you at work? You're supposed to be on vacation. She's like, I just love working. And they're like,
I love gossip.
Yeah, I was on the beach and I was like, work. I had to come back early. And everyone's like, you need to be in love. You need to go on a date. And she's like, why would I? She's just like, I am not interested in that frivolous stuff. Right. But that just sets her up for, she's about to fall in love with Will Smith. Like that's
Classic.
What's going to happen.
And unfortunately, they have kind of good chemistry.
Oh,
It's good.
Listen, I would watch the tape. I I was into it. My bisexual tinglies
Oh
were
my
happening.
God. Honestly,
They are
she's
so
beautiful. She is so hot.
She's so hot. And she has like a presence that's just like, she knows she's the shit. She walks into every room and she knows that every single eye is on her. And like, she's one of like, we're just in a place where we don't really have movie stars like that anymore. Like I see her in the movie and I'm like, God damn, I get it.
She has that it factor.
She has it. But again, like this idea of every girl just wants to fall in love is very problematic. And then with the Allegra and what is his name?
Albert Brenneman.
I just want to call him Paul Blart Mall Cop. Isn't that who he is?
You can for the rest of today. You can call him Paul
Blart. That's all I could
but
see.
Mall Cop.
Yes, Mall Cop. Yeah, it's really interesting with that whole thing too, because similarly, they tried to do this thing of like, he's nerdy and Hitch is trying to make him into the alpha male, but what ends up really winning her is that he's his nerdy self. So like they tried to have like a positive message, like him dancing badly, for example, which was
spilling mustard on his shirt.
He's kind of slobby. Yeah, he is falling all over himself. He has a lot of physical comedy, like he forgets to put his pants on at one point.
Right.
Like,
it's very silly.
It's very silly. And like, to his credit, he's charming in his own way. Like I did enjoy some of that. But again, it hinges on this idea that like all women want a certain type of thing, and that it's surprising that a woman who is beautiful and wealthy would fall for somebody like him. It's kind of like, can you believe it? Like, this is crazy. And not that it doesn't happen. Yeah.
It's mirrored with Hitch and Sarah because he fucks up on all their dates and she finds that very charming. So I do think like they're trying to do something here, but unfortunately it is just like covered.
It's still a Hollywood movie.
It's still a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still a movie. So I think like they're trying to kind of get out of this hellhole that they have built themselves. But I think consistently it just keeps, I don't know, the messaging, especially with this like one-dimensional like Vance Munson character who's basically just like, can we talk about him? What do you think about this?
No, you were right on the money because I was about to bring him up to the point about like they're trying to do something subversive. They go like, this is what a real misogynist looks like.
Exactly.
He just wants to sleep with her, and it's it's a guy who wants to hire Hitch, and Hitch is like, absolutely not. I don't work with guys like you. And to me, the subtext was like, he's hot, he's a good looking, objectively. And then he's also like, oh yeah, I just want to sleep with her. Whereas your other clients feel the same way. They're just not saying, They're just not saying it, especially when this opening montage shows that the successful partnerships end up with the guy and girl in bed together. Right. So like, that's what you're trying to potentially set your clients up for, but saying it makes you a misogynist versus just wanting it doesn't.
Right.
It's like, you can't have it both ways.
So interesting. I mean, like, I do think that this, like, Albert Brenneman, aka Paul Blart Mall Cop, he does kind of have this nice guy trope, right? And I think at the end of the movie, we're made to feel like when Allegra Cole is like, you told him to spill mustard on his shirt so he'd make me feel like less of a dork. And he's like, no, I didn't do that. That's all him. Like, I do think they're trying to show us that like being yourself, like will get you the hot girl, which I think like good message still makes me feel annoyed that it has to be like schlubby man, hot girl. Like if it was schlubby girl, hot man, that would break the internet. I don't think that is a thing that like Hollywood bets on. Especially
and she has no personality. Like that is one of my biggest pet peeves of most rom-coms and romances in general in movies is I don't see, again, like with Will Smith and Sarah Miles, I keep popping around between actual names and character names.
I know, me too.
They have chemistry. Yeah. Like it seems like they're talking. She's always kind of like sticking it to him. She's very clever. You can tell that like the way that she talks to him, like he's always caught off guard. Like, damn, I didn't expect her to say that. Like, how am I going to keep up with her? Versus Mall Cop and Allegra, like they don't talk about anything.
No.
Like what? Y'all, he taught her how to whistle. Like okay, but what else? Like who?
There's no substance.
No, and I did like that he like stood up for her, like when they were at the fashion show and the guys were being kind of snooty. Right. He had a cute little moment where he kind of like took him down.
What's your name? Eggnog? That's what he does.
Yeah, like that was funny, and I was like, okay, I see you, but also like it was still about him. Like it wasn't about her. And even again, like get to know the friend. He spent more time asking the friend about his perspective on fashion versus why do you want to invest into your friend's fashion things? Like totally. What other stuff do you like? You know, I know this must be hard for you. Everybody like buzzing around you. Like, where is a place we could go? Like, learn where do you feel comfortable? Like totally. What would you like to do if you weren't famous?
Any one thing would be really great to know about her. And I do think it's interesting how like at the end of the movie, you know, it ends in this marriage, it ends in this wedding scene, which very classically all like rom-coms I feel like just aim to do. They want to give you the happily ever after. You know, they want to give the best friend a hottie to dance with on the dance floor.
That Hitch also orchestrated by having that old lady
choke on an olive. Like, excuse me, you're gonna put this 95-year-old woman's life in danger just to get this meet cute happening? Like, that's insane.
Also, it's just again, it's the idea of like, oh, this guy is so shallow that he's only interested in you because you just saved his grandma's life.
Right.
That's it.
That's what
he didn't notice
true
you
love
until
is
then.
based on. Yeah. Yeah. I think, I don't know, there are so many funny parts to this movie. And I think like when you do see a movie like this when you're a kid, you have a soft spot for it because you like think it's funny, you know, everything that's going on. You know, I wasn't in any real relationship when I was a kid, obviously watching this movie. So it very much informs kind of this idea of like what dating should be like, what it shouldn't be like, the fact that like once you have the first kiss, you're in forever. Like there's just so many crazy messages that we're receiving.
So toxic.
So toxic. And that's taken us to the cringe corner. So I want to hear from you. You know, we're going to do the most outrageous moment or line, most cringeworthy, you know, piece of Hitch. And then we'll get, we'll give them two awards, the Yikes Bikes Award. For those who are listening, if you haven't seen Never Been Kissed, don't worry. That's one of the episodes that we'll have later on. But there's a line where Drew Barrymore's character, Josie, is trying to chat with the hotties during lunch. And she's just rattling off all these words. She goes, yikes. Bikes, and it's very awkward. It's really uncomfortable. So this is the Yikes Bikes Award. I'll start with my line, and then I'm curious to hear your moment or line. But quote: basic principles. No matter what, no matter when, no matter who, any man has a chance to sweep any woman off her feet. He just needs the right broom.
He needs the right broom. And who's the broom? Who's the broom?
Somebody help.
Yeah, the analogy doesn't work.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Any man has a chance to sweep. It's like Andrew Tate. Like, excuse me. Like, please
Yeah.
don't say that. It's really not good.
It's so bad.
It's bad. So that's the Yeg Spikes Award. What do you have your cringiest moment?
Oh man, there's truly so many, but one that sticks out to me was when he invites Sarah over for dinner and he makes a toast and he's like, "Don't lie." He's like,
do you want me to read it? I have the
"Don't-"
exact quote.
Write it down. It's like, "Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal," and then something else.
I have it. Okay, I'll read it to you. Never lie. I literally right below that quote I just read is this one. I have only 2 quotes on the page. I swear to God. Never lie, steal, cheat, or drink. But if you must lie, lie in the arms of the one you love. If you must steal, steal away from bad company. If you must cheat, cheat death. And if you must drink, drink in the moments that take your breath away. I have to share. That was definitely on my AIM profile at some point. That entire quote was definitely on my AIM profile.
Oh my God, listeners, if you have to watch this moment because the way he's looking into Sarah's face so intently, and she's literally like giving him death lasers, like, "I hate you." And he's not reading it at all. He's just like, I'm killing it right now.
Oh my God. I really definitely put like swirlies next to that quote and like use that as my away message for sure. I thought it was profound, but really he's just being skeevy. He's just trying to, again, manipulate kind of everything is about manipulation and image and the way that you are perceived by other people.
Yeah. And it's also it's that coupled with the fact that he is still like, "But she's got me off my game. Like, even though I am the date doctor, I'm so thrown." That's how you know that like I'm really in love. And it's like, but you're not that thrown. Like, just like some awkward things have happened, which is fine. But like, you still haven't let your guard down. Like, we still don't really know. Like, she talks about her sister and her, you know, I did crack up when he looked up her family member who ended up being like a serial killer. Like, that was very
and
funny
she's like,
to me.
Like she does this crazy kind of like at Ellis Island.
That cry that lasted for way too long, and like Will Smith
ran
looking
away
at her like, "What is happening here?" Like, that was very funny. But like throughout, she is sharing who she is and like what she does for a living and why her job is important to her and her relationship with her sister and all these things.
Her very hot sister with a very hot husband, by the way, at the end of the movie that we see.
Of course, her stunning.
Stunning.
But like, we don't know anything about him. You know, again, they do have chemistry, but like, how did
we know he was a loser in college? That's what this whole thing is. We missed that. We got to talk about that for a second. So this whole basis of his personality and of him doing this profession is because he got cheated on in college because he was a nerd and he really loved Cressida, who she didn't really love him back, I don't think.
Yeah, but even that is very strange because it's funny because like how we talked about for women in movies, the rom-com of it all is like the glasses, but like for the guy, it's like a blouse. So like you're wearing like a mixed print blouse, which I was like, ooh, would wear that. I would. Like
today,
that's what
for sure.
I totally would. That's what makes him ugly because he's still Will Smith.
He's hot. He's very hot, to be clear.
He's still very hot. But then he gets with her, and again, it's not clear what he learns from that then inspires him. It's more like, you know, it breaks his heart and he decides he needs to teach other men. But I don't know how did he learn these tools? Like, it's never clear where that comes from.
He's like a modern day dating coach is really like what it is. And it's so funny because there are so many people who are peddling kind of this bullshit in 2024 of like, if you know how to get to a woman's head, you'll get into her bed. And I just made that up. But
and the thing, again, it's the thing of like, again, the bar is so low because you're right, those guys do exist, but the 2024 versions are so misogynistic and they're so like explicit and they're just so disgusting and they're so creepy that when I was watching Hitch, I was like, well, it's not terrible. Like, it's bad, but it could be a lot worse.
Yeah. We're going to now rate the movie. Okay, let me tell you about this system. We have 1 to 5 VOMs. Okay, so basically, based on how problematic its messages are about dating, love, and gender roles, if it's 1 VOM, it's a dated movie, but mostly harmless, all the way through 5. full body cringe, aged like milk, just absolutely would not recommend. Where would you rate this?
I'm gonna put it at a 3 voms.
That's exactly.
I mean,
okay, that's
it's rough. It's rough. It's rough, but like I still enjoyed myself. I still like
it's funny still. Yeah,
it is still funny, and I think realizing that we're coming up on 20 years since this movie was made, it's really rare that a movie after 20 years ages this well. True. And again, the bars in hell. I was like, oh, no transphobia, no homophobia. I was like, okay, wait a second. Y'all are really doing it. And I was like, the consent stuff is a little bad, but I was like, there was nothing really rapey in this movie.
Right. Which is just like, oh, we need some help here.
Literally.
But, yeah. I think, okay, the final question I have for you, we're going to give our final thoughts and a rewrite. Okay. So basically, like, we're going to do final thoughts on Hitch. Maybe if you want to talk about if you feel like it's left a legacy in rom-com history or not, like, what do you think overall the message was here? And if you could rewrite like either a scene or a character, what would you do?
So I think the overall message was supposed to be like a be yourself, because Paul Blart, he can't dance. He gets mustard on his shirt. He has an inhaler, which Hitch was like, get rid of the inhaler. No, don't.
You need that for your life.
Keep the inhaler. Please do not die. That is not cute. So, and similarly, when he's around Sarah, he just can't keep it together. He's kicking her in the face. He's losing his shirt in the door. He breaks down at her front door and he's all tongue tied. He's just like, this girl's in my head.
He's like, can we close the door? Can we just close the door?
Yeah. So I think that was what they were trying to get at. If I was going to rewrite this, I think the idea of a date doctor is interesting, but instead of people who are trying to, get the affection of somebody else, maybe it's more for like couples who've like lost the magic. So it's almost like a relationship therapist, and the date doctor of it all is like helping couples rekindle the magic. So, because I think what happens oftentimes is, when you've been with someone for a long time, you can kind of like get into a groove where you're literally not going on dates anymore. You're not like, dressing up for each other and giving each other gifts and doing all of the cute things you do in the wooing stage. So maybe if the premise was more about that, but it's also like the parallel thing of like, he's a date doctor, but maybe his marriage is falling apart, and like, kind of flipping on its head where like, they really do need to get a divorce, and like that's the journey.
You've written this entire movie already on this podcast.
I will say, while I was watching it, I was like, in the land of reboots, why haven't we had a Hitch reboot? And it's a lady Hitch.
Oh wow. I feel like
we need that.
The industry would go nuts for this.
I feel like a lady Hitch movie is like a very obvious
next step.
I think, yeah, 1,000%.
Who do we got to write to make this happen?
Let's slide into Will Smith's DMs.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. Well, Franchesca, we're at the end here. I am so happy to have had you on Rom-Com Bomb episode 1. Yeah. What a pleasure! Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, folks, if you like this episode, don't forget to rate and review us wherever you're listening to this. And here is a teaser of the rom-com that we're going to be talking about next week. DM us on Instagram at Sex Ed with DB Podcast and tell us what you think it is. This 90s NYC rom-com features 2 bookstore business rivals who unknowingly fall for each other via anonymous email exchanges. Franchesca, thank you again for being on. This is so much fun.
Oh, thank you again for having me.